Weighted averages are a special kind of mean. It's when all things are not equally weighted, which makes sense, particularly in a college class. For instance, a final exam is always going to be worth more than just a homework assignment or a discussion board post. So you have to calculate weighted averages differently. In a regular mean, you would just add up the numbers, divide by how many there are. But you can't do that in a weighted average. So in this class in particular, our syllabus shows you what the breakdown is. The breakdown is 30% of your grade comes from assignments. 40% comes from your projects, and you'll have 2 of those. 15% comes from your midterm, MT, and 15% comes from that final paper that you're going to write. Okay, so let's say at the end, which is what's going to happen. All of your assignment grades get added together. I divide by how many there are, and you will come up with one assignment average. So let's say a student ends up with a 78 for their assignment average. Projects. You have 2 projects. I will add those 2 together and divide by 2, and that will be a project grade. So a student might get a 95 for their project average. Midterm. Maybe they got an 80 on the midterm, and they might get a, I don't know, maybe something terrible happened, let's say, and they got a 60 on their final. Okay, and I have to calculate that student's final grade that I'm going to submit to the registrar's office. And this is exactly how it will happen. All right, you cannot simply add those 4 numbers together and divide by 4 because the projects are weighted more heavily than the midterm or the final. So weighted average goes like this. You've got your scores, and you're going to multiply your scores times their weight. The weights in this example are your percentages. And you're going to convert those to decimals. So the assignment, 30% is 0.30. Projects, 40% is 0.40. 15% is 0.15. 0.15, okay? So one at a time, multiply the score times its individual weight. So 78 times 0.3 gives you 23.4. 95 times 0.4 gives you 38. 80 times 0.15 gives you 12. And 60 times 0.15 gives you 9. Okay, what you have here are kind of your grade points. This is the column then that you add together. Okay, so when you're adding with decimals, you got to line up your decimal points. Okay, I don't have anything to the right of any of those decimals, but since the first one does. So you add that column together, and you get 82.4. That would be that student's final grade, and in this, according to my syllabus, that's a B. So you really have to be careful here. So even though their assignment grade was really powerful, they were hurt obviously by the final exam, and their assignment scores only being a C kind of brought those down. But you can't just eyeball Blackboard and say, oh gee, I have so many hundreds or I have so many whatever. Remember, most of those grades will be assignment grades, and those make up 30%. That's less than a third of the class. So your main focus actually is on those 2 projects. All right, so that's weighted average when you have percentages. I'm going to do another video on weighted average with GPA.